What is happening across the United States right now is not your typical February cold snap. This is something much bigger. As I'm recording this on Saturday, February 7th, 2026, we are sitting right in the middle of one of the most aggressive winter patterns this country has seen in over a decade. And I need to walk you through exactly what's coming over the next 10 days, because what the models are showing is genuinely alarming. From the brutal Arctic air already gripping the East Coast this weekend to a full-blown polar vortex collapse that's about to reshape the entire weather map by mid-month, this forecast demands your attention. Whether you're in New York, Chicago, Atlanta, or even Texas, what I'm about to break down could directly affect how you plan your next week and a half. Let's get into it. Right now, this weekend is already delivering a serious punch. A fast-moving clipper system swept across the Great Lakes into the Northeast on Friday, dropping 1 to 3 inches of snow from Wisconsin through Pennsylvania and into New England. But the snow isn't the headline. The cold behind it is absolutely ferocious. Temperatures across much of the Northeast have cratered into the teens, and they're still falling. Wind chills are plunging well below zero. We're talking -6 in parts of the mid-Atlantic, -20s and 30s across New England. Northwest winds are howling at 25 to 35 miles per hour, with gusts past 55 in some exposed areas. Extreme cold warnings are in effect from the Delmarva Peninsula all the way up through Maine. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now let's move on. But this brutal weekend, it's just the appetizer. The real story of February 2026 is unfolding miles above our heads in the stratosphere, where a sudden stratospheric warming event is actively breaking apart the polar vortex. Think of the polar vortex as a giant spinning top of frigid air over the North Pole. When it's strong, that Arctic cold stays locked up where it belongs. But when a massive pulse of energy surges into the stratosphere, it slows that spin, stretches it, and eventually cracks it open. Models have confirmed that by mid-February, around February 12th to 15th, the vortex is expected to fully split into 2 lobes. One drifts toward Eurasia, the other drops over North America. When that happens, wave after wave of Arctic air comes pouring south into the lower 48. Here's the timeline. This weekend, February 7th and 8th, the Northeast is the bullseye. New York City is looking at highs barely cracking the mid-teens today, overnight lows in single digits. Boston is even worse, highs struggling to reach 15, wind chills making it feel 20 to 30 below on Sunday morning. Philadelphia will hover around 15 to 18 for highs. Washington, D.C. expects low 20s with wind chills in negative territory. But while the east freezes, the western 2/3 of the country are running 20 to 30 degrees above normal. Montana and South Dakota will see highs in the 60s Monday and Tuesday. In early February, that extreme contrast is a classic signature of a disrupted polar vortex. February 9th through 11th brings one more day of brutal cold in the Northeast on Monday before a brief warm-up. By Tuesday, New York could climb into the low 30s. Philly and D.C. might push into the 40s. But don't be fooled. This moderation is the atmosphere catching its breath before the next assault. Meanwhile, the Pacific Northwest wakes up with precipitation spreading across the Intermountain West, bringing welcome mountain snow to the Cascades and Northern Rockies after weeks of stubborn dryness. February 12th through 16th is where everything changes. The vortex collapse propagates to the surface. Models show textbook post-collapse behavior, massive blocking high pressure over the Arctic, a deep trough stretching across the United States. There's a twist, though. A powerful tropical wave called the Madden-Julian Oscillation is simultaneously pushing northward, temporarily clashing with the vortex collapse and briefly shielding parts of the central and eastern U.S. Temperatures around Valentine's Day could run near normal in some spots. But this interference won't last. By February 15th and 16th, the stratospheric signal reestablishes, potentially opening the door to fresh rounds of bitter cold. Let me go region by region. The Northeast, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Hartford, Portland, is ground zero for the most dramatic temperature swings. You're going from dangerously cold this weekend to a brief warm-up to another potential cold blast by late next week. Snow potential is elevated throughout. Long-range models suggest a possible lee-side cyclone that could turn a modest disturbance into a major event for New England. Boston could see an additional 4 to 8 inches over this period. New York is in the 2 to 5 inch range near term with higher potential later. Washington, D.C., whose snowiest month is historically February, is tracking 3 to 7 inches for the month. The Midwest and Great Lakes, Chicago, Detroit, Minneapolis, Cleveland, Milwaukee, are locked into repeated clipper systems. Each brings an inch or two, but stacked over 10 days, it adds up. Lake effect snow is particularly enhanced with cold air flowing over warmer lakes. NOAA has flagged all of Michigan for above normal February snowfall, running 50 to 60% above typical levels. Buffalo's lake effect machine is on overdrive. Chicago will bounce from single digits this weekend to possibly the 40s midweek before crashing back down. The Southeast, Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville, is still recovering from January's bomb cyclone that dropped a foot on Charlotte and 6 inches on Myrtle Beach. The immediate trend is moderating, but black ice remains a serious hazard overnight. If the vortex collapse delivers its coldest potential by late February, another freeze could push further south than normal. Atlanta could see overnight lows in the low 20s during the coldest windows. The plains, Dallas, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, will experience the wildest ride. The midweek warmth will be borderline absurd for February, but when the vortex collapse fully reaches the surface, cold air has a direct pathway down the plains. Dallas could swing from near 60 to below freezing within days. The West Coast stays in a different regime entirely. LA and the Bay Area will be mild in the 60s to low 70s, while the eastern half of the country suffers. Now for the comparison everyone keeps asking about, February 2013 and the legendary winter storm Nemo. That blizzard was born when two low-pressure systems, one rolling east from the Great Plains, the other racing up from the Gulf Coast, merged off the northeast coast and exploded into a monster nor'easter. Connecticut got crushed. Hamden recorded an almost unbelievable 40 inches. Milford saw 38. Boston took nearly 25 inches, making it the fifth highest snowfall total in the city's entire recorded history. Portland, Maine set an all-time record at almost 32 inches, and the wind was savage. Gusts hit 83 mph off Cuttyhunk, Massachusetts, and 82 mph in Westport, Connecticut. Snow was falling at 4 to 5 inches per hour at the storm's peak. Over 650,000 customers lost power. Hundreds of people were stranded on Long Island and Connecticut highways as the accumulation outpaced any ability to plow. The president declared states of emergency. Travel bans went into effect across multiple states. At least 18 deaths were blamed on the storm. It was ranked a Category 3, major, on the Northeast Snowfall Impact Scale, and for some communities in southern New England, it was the worst winter storm in over 300 years of record-keeping. The atmospheric setup in 2013 shares real DNA with what we're seeing now. That winter also featured a disrupted polar vortex that allowed repeated shots of Arctic air to slide south, setting the stage for explosive cyclogenesis along the coast. But there are critical differences. In 2013, the vortex disruption was more localized and shorter-lived. The cold came in waves but had breaks between them. What we're dealing with in 2026 is fundamentally more severe, a confirmed full stratospheric warming event leading to a complete vortex split, which creates a longer-lasting, more persistent disruption of the entire northern hemisphere circulation. The cold support this year could persist not just through mid-February, but well into early March, potentially creating multiple windows for major storm development. AccuWeather has already classified this as the first severe winter in the Northeast since 2017-2018, with dozens of cities across the Midwest and Northeast carrying that same label. The question isn't whether this winter will be remembered, it already will be. The question is how much more February has left to deliver. January alone was staggering. Boston finished with an 8-day streak below the seasonal average, running over 13 degrees colder than normal. Multiple daily low records were shattered. The Hudson River accumulated enough ice to suspend all NYC ferry routes for days. January's bomb cyclone delivered record snow to the Carolinas and Virginia. The Northeast is dealing with what locals call snowcrete, dense, ice-packed snow that refuses to melt. Any new snow on top creates dangerous roof loads and treacherous conditions. These are signals we associate with the most memorable winters in living memory. Heading deeper into the second half of February, the polar vortex collapse creates enormous uncertainty. But what we know with high confidence is this: the stratospheric event is real, confirmed, and going to fully disrupt polar circulation by mid-month. Surface effects typically appear 1 to 3 weeks after initial warming, putting the prime impact window in the February 15th through early March timeframe. If a true blocking pattern establishes over Greenland, and multiple model ensembles suggest it will, then storm after storm could ride up the east coast, each tapping into an endless reservoir of frigid air. That's the pattern that produces legendary winters. Keep those emergency kits stocked. Make sure your vehicles are winter-ready. Watch for black ice even on sunny mornings. The Midwest Clipper Parade isn't ending. Budget extra time for every commute. The Southeast shouldn't be fooled by warm days. Another cold blast is always just days away in this pattern, and the West should enjoy the calm while watching those mountain passes as precipitation returns. This is one of those winters that reminds us how powerful the atmosphere can be when everything lines up. A collapsing polar vortex, a fading La Nina stepping aside to let the Arctic run the show, historic storms already in the books, and the coldest air on Earth aimed at the heart of America. Stay warm, stay safe, and stay right here. This story is far from over. Thanks for watching.